Hello friends, I'm Pastor Oleg and we continue our journey through the prophet Isaiah, through his book, and we are on chapter 2. And many of my evangelical friends frequently quote the first part of this chapter as a proof text on the political and economical achievements of modern day Israel. And I mentioned in the previous program that really the restoration of Jerusalem is a prophetic event. However, what my friends unfortunately forget is that this blessed situation that the Bible describes, these blessings upon Israel, they are not preceding the coming of the day of the Lord. They are the fruit of the day of the Lord. You see, that's very opposite. Well, opposite is already opposite to what people came to believe today, because it is their understanding that by means of people's hands and money and missiles and efforts and military strength, this blessed state could be achieved. But the reality is such that it is only after the day of the Lord that we are dealing with the true restoration of Israel. What we have before the day of the Lord reflects on this extremely sad picture that Isaiah and other prophets are presenting in relation to the fall of Jerusalem. Of course, those who lived in Jerusalem, those who ruled it, those thought that they have already experienced the great blessings. I'm talking about the time of Isaiah, which is not that different from our days, if you look closely enough. They've got power, they've got money, international influence of unparalleled strength. They are working hard to establish the Mount Zion on the top of the mountains, and they believe they are doing God's work as they are pursuing their goals. They were making new military and economical allies, and they were relying on the king of the north for his great help. Little did they realize that the king of the north would be the worst thing that would ever happen to them. If you see any parallels with situation today, you can share your view on it. Most of my friends, I believe, would have a very different view on this, but let's come and reason. The Bible invites us. Nevertheless, chapter 2 ends up with humiliation of all the proud. And as Jerusalem and the church are very proud, the humiliation will be great. That's why there is an ongoing call to come out of Babylon. Perhaps the time will come when it will be wise for the people in Jerusalem literally to start looking for a safer place to relocate, unless they are of exceptional holiness and a great testimony of Jesus Christ to others. Because the sin comes upon those who sigh and cry. Another prophet Ezekiel, in chapter 9, verse 4, declares, and those are the words of the Lord. And the Lord said to him, "Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and put a mark on the foreheads of the men who sigh and cry for all the abomination that are done within it." So that's Ezekiel is saying. In the book of Isaiah you will find similar messages. In Matthew chapter 23 we can see another parallel story to this sin and to this abomination that is on display in the last days church, in the last day Christian community. The sign is still the same as Jesus indicated, the abomination of desolation, on the holy place. What is it? We'll talk about it as we continue with our discussion in more details. But here I'll mention that it's the unlawful sacrifice, the abomination of desolation, the sacrifice that denies Jesus and thus honors other gods who are not gods. The sealing, the preservation for the time of trouble. And that's another thing, because most of my evangelical friends, they don't believe in the time of trouble. They believe that, when the time of trouble comes, they will be secretly raptured. So, they don't care, unfortunately, about it. But the prophetic books are telling us that the time of trouble will come, and there will be people who will be sealed for this time of trouble. And what are they doing, those people? They are sighing and crying for the abomination of desolation done in Jerusalem or done in Christianity. So, and only those people could stay with some degree of certainty in the Babylon. And of course, when I'm talking about safety, I'm not talking necessarily about, their physical safety, because they will be endangered, just as all the prophets were persecuted. I'm talking about the spiritual safety. The only safe place to stay in Babylon is where you can sigh and cry for the abominations that is done here